New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Good morning and welcome to the Sunday celebrations here for the Centers of Spiritual Living Denver. We are a loving and prospering community here in the heart of Capitol Hill and online. We know that with everything going on, life can feel overwhelming. Here at CSL Denver, we want you to know that we are here for you. Please know that our practitioners are available for prayer work with you. Our names and phone numbers are on the website at www.cslddenver.org. Or if you have a prayer request, please email it to info@cslddenver.org. Reverend Elzia, along with all of our guest speakers, all of our practitioners, our music and service coordinators, want you to know how truly grateful we are for your online support. Thank you for watching our Sunday services, attending our online workshops and events, and providing financial support so that we can keep our virtual doors open. We love you all and know we'll be seeing you in person in the right and perfect time. And now, we'll continue to meet online until further notice. If you're interested in upcoming events and information, we send out weekly newsletters. Please go to www.cslddenver.org and sign up for our newsletters. We only send out one per week. Or send an email to info@cslddenver.org and request to be put on our mailing list. This week we are having our usual Zoom fellowship right after service. If you haven't already received an email this morning, please send an email to info@cslddenver.org to request a Zoom invitation. Please join us. We would love to say hi and catch up with you. That's it for the announcements this Sunday. Again, thank you for tuning in, and now back to our service.
God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
Good morning. I'm Rumi engineer, a practitioner at CSL Denver. Let us pray in. Surely the presence of God, Spirit, is in this place. On this first day of spring and the Zoroastrian New Year, I welcome Spirit's joyous renewal of all of nature, knowing that it is blessing everyone on earth. The message of this new year is renewal, refreshment, and joy in life, in our community, and in our world. Surely the spirit of this message continues to transcend nations and borders, and we welcome this new day, particularly for those who are displaced, suffering and hurting, or simply wanting to live free and in peace. And I know that this blessing descends upon our world right now, right here. And I bless this service. I bless Reverend Darrell, Diego, Reverend Robert, Alice, all the practitioners, including myself, knowing that with great joy, we welcome this time of renewal, of refreshment and peace. And with great gratitude, I send my words into the law, knowing that it is done. It is so, and so it is. Amen. And the reading today is about joy in the community. Nowruz, the Iranian and Zoroastrian New Year's Day, is celebrated on March 21st, the spring equinox in the Northern Hemisphere. By the way, it started at 9:33 a.m. here in Colorado. It is also the first day of the Zoroastrian solar year. As winter gives way to spring, as darkness gives way to light, and as dormant plants burst into blossom, Nowruz, literally new day, is a time of renewal, hope, and joy. In Persian and Zoroastrian culture, the ceremonies surrounding Nowruz center on community, family, and a deep respect for tradition. The hope of being able to start new and better is about as universal as they come. The idea, in keeping with Nowruz's overarching theme of renewal, is to cleanse away the past year so you can start the new one refreshed and renewed. And renewal comes from the traditional customs of community sharing, laughter, and play. But it is not always easy to allow ourselves to be seen in the vulnerable light that inherently comes with play. It involves overcoming the fear of taking off the mask of public acceptance and appropriateness and allowing your inner child to romp. Accepting invitations for play when they come is an essential step. Charles Schaeffer said, "We are never more fully alive, more completely ourselves, more deeply engrossed in anything than when we are playing. Because of this, we are known most deeply and completely in the space of play." And our founder, Ernest Holmes, in Help for Today, page 166, says, "If we feel then that we are simply onlookers and not participants in the game of life, we should rediscover the youthful spirit of that childlike joy which gives us the energy, happiness, security, and faith we had as children." And so it is. And now back to Jeff King with Magic Every Moment.
Hello again, everyone. Got a song today from Dan Fogelberg. This is one of my wife Mary's favorite songs. It's called Magic Every Moment. See forever
Thank you so much, Jeff. I don't believe I've ever heard that Dan Fogelberg song, so it's a wonderful Magic Every Moment. I'm Alice Nutter, a practitioner here at CSL Denver, and I am so excited to be able to introduce Reverend Darrell Jones. He is our guest speaker today. He is a minister, spiritual director, and mindfulness coach who brings 20 years of personal practice and over 13 years of professional experience inspiring, teaching, and coaching individuals, spiritual communities, and business groups to begin and maintain a life of spiritual practices to deepen connection with life. Reverend Darrell comes to us from Chicago this morning, and he is the author of the book Soul Gym, a manual to connect mind, body, and spirit for soulful living. It's a #1 bestseller on Amazon. So for more information about Reverend Darrell, if you want to find out what else he does, because I know he does quite a bit of speaking and is with a center in Chicago, you can go to his website at revdarrell with 2 L's, jones.com. So please help me welcome Reverend Darrell Jones. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Alice. Thank you to the entire community of Center for Spiritual Living Denver. It's a joy to be with you all today. So let's get right into it. The talk title is Joy in the Community. And this has been such a blessing of a title to walk with personally for myself. I'm always heightened before a talk, weeks leading up to it, of getting inspiration or having thoughts affirmed or a message brought to myself that can then be translated or transmuted into whatever is seeking to come through in today's talk. And my wife, who's not here this morning all week, for those of you who grew up in the 80s, like I did, there was a song first by Frankie Beverly and Mays called Joy and Pain. And then the hook or the chorus from that was used by Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock. So the riff goes, joy in pain is like sunshine in rain. And there's this beautiful sentiment that kind of has been sitting with me all week, that joy is this wonderful thing that we aspire to. Joy is this wonderful experience that we all want to have, and it has lots of shades. But that joy oftentimes is found in the midst of the pain and the struggle and the challenge in our life. And there is nothing wrong with that. One of the biggest areas that I have noticed, especially in the corporate work that I do, with there being such a need to perform, we live in a world of duality. And the only place that people are ever comparing themselves to, which is the thief of joy, comparison is the thief of joy, is the pain of not being where you want to be. So these two songs have been kind of sitting with me today, and I looked up the lyrics, and there's one, before I get into the talk, there's one lyric that says, when the world is down on you, love's somewhere around you. So whether we are experiencing a high moment or a low moment in our lives, that is that principle that we always come back to in religious science and in New Thought teachings, that love is always around us. And not only is it around us in the community, it's within our internal community. Sometimes we just forget. So joy in the community. What can this mean? Looking to the community to give us joy, or bringing joy into the community? And I think it means both. And that's the beauty of community. There's this beautiful give and take, right? There's this taking and receiving. There's this back and forth dance. So whether we are dancing together, whether we are singing together, breaking bread, or playing or socializing in some way, when we engage with our community, joy is imminent. Joy is the result of a convergence of our body, our mind, and our spirit, and truly being present to all levels and dimensions of ourselves at the same moment. When we allow that convergence, when we engage in play in the community, or that sacred play is one of the ways we've been talking about it, this is an opportunity for joy to emerge. When we are so immersed in a game, when we are so immersed in dancing, when we are so immersed in a conversation, um, nothing else matters. And in that moment, the beloved community is enough. In that moment, you are enough. In that moment is sufficient. There's a sense of well-being. There is a sense of contentment. This is the basis from which joy arises out of or from, right? This kind of space of feeling content and, most importantly, present in the moment. But what if you're not feeling it, right? Have you ever been annoyed by someone else's joy? One of the things I love to play with in my work is that is the full spectrum of what we experience. So it's not just about only feeling great, but honoring and recognizing that there's moments when we're feeling a little challenged. Maybe you've had one of those days where either you say this inside your head, or maybe you're so not in a space of joy, you say it out loud. Why are they so dang happy? What's wrong with these people? Don't they know it's Monday? Don't they know that gas prices are going crazy? Don't they know there's unrest and war in the world? And the list can go on and on. This phrase that we may speak is, why are they so dang joyful? Why are they so happy? Don't they know? Whether you speak that out loud or not, it is a symptom of a deficiency in joy. It is a symptom of deficiency in happiness. It is a symptom of deficiency of even being content. And just like any other nutrient that our body needs, whenever there is a deficiency, what do? We supplement. My wife is a holistic doctor and physician, and so there's always this conversation about the foods that we get and the nutrients that we need for this amazing body that God created to sustain itself. But sometimes we don't get everything that we need, so we have to supplement to boost ourselves back up to that optimal state. This is the same thing with our living, with our spiritual life and our human life. There's deficiencies at times, and we need to find a way to support ourselves, to supplement when we don't have it. And that's the benefit of the community. The community can give us sometimes the things that we don't have, but then we can also be of service and give. Joy is not static. It lives on the spectrum of our emotional experience, and it lives out towards the end. So Diego, I don't know if you can pull up that. There we go. So I grabbed this from the lawofattraction.com. Thank you to them. This is just an image to help kind of, for those of you who are visual learners, if you see joy at the top end here, let me point over it this way. If you see joy up top there, that is at the end of the spectrum. So arriving at joy or arriving in joy may prove challenging if we're having one of, quote unquote, those days. You can take the image down. Thank you. It may be that you're just irritated by almost anything and everything, right? Whether it's traffic, you're annoyed by what you're eating for lunch that day, the way your coworker or a friend pronounces a word differently than you do. You have a closet full of clothes and there's nothing in there that you like. You know, it's just one of those days where the grit of life is just kind of pulling you down. On a day such as this, joy may be challenging to access, but moving up that spiral or that continuum is possible. But it requires work and it requires practice. This might be a day when you seek to find joy in the community, letting the beloved ones around you trigger something to start you moving up the emotional spiral towards joy. Many days, though, the access to the joy or the access to the joy in the community is limited. And in particular, these past 2 years, with us having been locked down and shuttered away, it's been very, very challenging for a lot of us to access that joy because the literal connections that we have with our beloved community, whether it be our spiritual community, our work community, our friend community, our family community, even the neighbors that live next door to us, it's been compromised. And when we don't have that capacity to connect, sometimes it's really hard to get community joy. So what do we do? I want to focus today on the joy that is inherent within all of us. Because joy actually is not something that you pull in from outside. Joy lives within you. Something outside of you may mirror it and it triggers that joy, but where is it actually experienced and realized? It's experienced within yourself. And so if you always have joy within you, what if you were to focus on the joy that you have to give as opposed to the joy that you need to get? I often remind myself and need to remind myself that joy arises out of contentment. If we were to show that slide again, Diego, of the continuum, if you see here, contentment is towards the middle, right? And it's kind of on the cusp of a downward spiral into frustration or irritation. Once we just get above that level of pessimism, we go into positivity and we feel a sense of contentment. And from there, we build and move upward towards joy. Thank you, Diego. So I have to remind myself that joy comes out of contentment. And this is why I believe that meditation as a regular practice every day is critical. Because often in meditation, there isn't an immediate sense of joy, elation, or even wonderment, right? You kind of grapple with the mind spinning all over the place, but rather there's an overall sense of well-being and contentment that can give way to these greater states. To sit in meditation is a way to welcome an evenness. In the Buddhist world, or in the world of mindfulness, we may call it equanimity, a calmness of mind. But ultimately, joy is not something that comes from outside of you. It builds and swells within you. And the community can amplify your own joy, which is awesome when that happens. The community can even trigger your joy, but it does live and come from within. Play with the community, let them trigger it within you. But I really want to focus today on the joy that you can bring into the community. And here's the beautiful thing. With joy, when you give it to someone, when you bring it into a situation, it doesn't run out. There's no cap on joy. There's no ceiling on joy. On the contrary, oftentimes when we bring some level of joy into the moment, it creates more joy. If you've ever been in one of those situations where someone starts laughing in a workshop or even in a service like this, and then other people start laughing around them, and it's almost this uncontrollable spreading of laughter and frivolity and joy. It's contagious, but it wasn't taking away anyone's joy. It was adding, it was amplifying the joy and bolstering the joy that dwells within all of us. And once it really does get going, it is self-sustaining. A recent moment for me personally of joy that I experienced just happened yesterday morning. I have not gone to the gym where I have worked out for the last decade or so in about 2 years. And finally, the mask mandates were lifted here in Chicago. And so going back to the gym without having that constriction was possible. And there's a class that happens every Saturday morning. It's a dance, hip hop based movement class where you're just hooting and hollering and having fun and doing some choreography together. And I did that for the first time yesterday in 2 years. And the joy that I brought into that room, I was so excited to be there, was immediately reflected back to me by people that I hadn't seen in almost 2 years. And we ran up and we hugged one another and we were dancing and high-fiving. And there was this throwing back and forth of the joy. I just had dinner with a couple of colleagues the other night where we sat down and there was something so powerful of just talking together, being connected to one another, breaking bread together, sharing and catching up, and actually being in the same room. There was a level of joy that we were sharing back and forth that just continued to grow. So when we come into community, there is no taking away. There's no need to guard our joy. There's no need to pocket our joy and put it down. When we bring it into the room, when we bring it into the community, when we bring it into our interactions, it helps not only you, but everyone around you. And before you know it, it's coming right back at you. So I want you to consider this week, and for the rest of the year, for that matter, of being an instrument of joy, right? That you let joy play you. We're always trying to go out and get something and play something. But what if joy played you? Let it play your heart. Let it play your mind and your soul. But remember that joy is at the end of that spectrum, or the high point of the spiral. So bringing joy, or adding to the possibility of joy, doesn't necessarily mean that you come bouncing and bounding into a room like Tigger from Winnie the Pooh everywhere you go. But you can bring contentment if that's where you are. You can bring hopefulness. You can bring enthusiasm. You can bring optimism. You can bring passion to the moment and continue to activate the energy of the spirit to allow everyone to slowly begin to move towards the joy. This brings you and the ones around you one step closer to joy. So why is it that joy can be so challenging to experience? Joy requires us to be present. You cannot experience joy in another time and place. It is only available in the present moment. Now, you can have a memory of joy, which is wonderful, but when you feel that joy, even though you're thinking about it, the place that it is actualized and experienced is in the present moment. Most of the day, most of us are not very present, and I include myself in that. We are constantly dancing in the past. We are constantly planning and preparing for the future. And this isn't a bad thing. It's what a lot of us need to do for our jobs and for our work and to be successful in life. However, if we find ourselves in that space of deficiency where we're not able to access joy, where we're not able to access love, where we're not able to access even contentment, chances are our attention is not present. If we are leaning more towards that space of doubt, anxiety, worry, and fear, we're probably going into the land of uncertainty. The future is not certain, and it never will be. And if we think for some reason that we can put some of the puzzle pieces together ahead of time, and we're going to know everything is going to be okay, but then we don't know everything is going to be okay because we can't know for sure, that's where we get into that space where we start to get deficient and we come back down that spiral and dip below the level of contentment and start to go into pessimism, frustration, anger, and worry. And then if we even find ourselves floating back into the space of sadness and depression, chances are we are not present at all. We are lingering and lamenting about the past. I know that there's been a lot of anger that I've experienced when I found myself lamenting over the past 2 years. Oh, I wish things were just the same. I wish things were the way they were as we shut down and we were limited from connection in the community. I got really frustrated and angry about that. And if I stayed there too long, my capacity to access joy, my space on that spectrum, my space on that scale started to drip down. So what do I do? What do we need to do? We do something to move us one step up the rung. Joy is the result of us being present. It is a symptom of being present. And it is a symptom, it is a telltale sign of a convergence. This is the heart of my ministry of Soul Gym. It is about bringing the mind, the body, and the spirit into the moment. And when we do that, and all levels of ourself converge, in the center is our soul, and we live soulfully. When we are living soulfully, it is much easier to access joy. We often talk about that we are humans having a spiritual experience and think about things in these dichotomous ways of either or. When that human and spiritual self come together, there is a convergence as well. And in those moments, that is when we can access joy. A few weeks ago, I believe it was Reverend Elzia gave the definition of joy, that it is a feeling of great pleasure and happiness. And again, depending upon where we are, a feeling of great pleasure and happiness may be a little distant from us. And it's easy to go, well, I can't do that. I'm not feeling it today. So we just camp out in the space of feeling a little sorry for ourselves, angry and frustrated with others. To start shifting our talk today into, okay, this is great, Darrell, now what? Because that's the place that I like to live in. This is what has fueled my work in the world. When we come together in community, it's so amazing and I love it. I love to be in a physical room and have the musicians play and sing and to talk and to hug. And we're going to hang out in the Zoom afterwards and have a little bit of fellowship remotely, which is amazing. And it's a little hard to access sometimes. So what do we do? How do we exercise? How do we make joy a spiritual practice? How do we let this message and this idea of sacred joy and sacred play find its way in those moments where we aren't connected to the ease and grace of our spiritual community, right? When it's Tuesday at 5 p.m., when it's Wednesday at 9:30 a.m., when it's Friday at 10 p.m. and you're home and you're feeling lonely, like what do you do? Enter the word enjoy, E-N-J-O-Y. To enjoy something is to experience with joy or to take pleasure in. What if you could take pleasure in the moment? Not because anything is happening in particular, but to take pleasure in the moment that is. Right here, right now, I invite you to pause, to take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, close your eyes. And regardless of what is happening, there is some pleasure that you can take in this moment. Maybe it's just the stillness of me pausing, talking for a moment. Maybe it's taking pleasure in just the word joy. Maybe taking pleasure in this Sunday morning where you've taken some time to slow down. Another thing I think that is required of joy. We need to be present. We need to slow down. That's what's required to take pleasure in something, to enjoy something. So just to nerd out a little bit here, the word enjoy comes from an old French word, verb, enjoyer, E-N-J-O-I-E-R. And loosely translated, enjoyer means to give joy to. So this is where it's about bringing that joy, to give joy as opposed to getting it or seeking it or looking for it always outside of us. Yes, it's there in the community, but if we enjoy life, we give joy to the moment, whether it is coming to service, sitting down and sharing a cup of coffee, or even walking down the street and waving to a neighbor. Enjoy, take pleasure in that moment, and give joy to your world. Now, just like the emotional spectrum, joy has a spectrum itself, right? It's not always this ecstatic, high, almost manic sometimes state that I think it can be connected to. Joy can express itself tearfully, right? There's been moments where it's very quiet and somber and inside, and you're just so joyful, and there's some tears that come. And there's moments when there's euphoria. And then there's moments of deep, deep contentment and so much more. So know that there isn't one way to realize or experience joy. There's the way for you to experience joy in the moment. The most important thing is to be present to it. And when you're present to it, bring it forward and allow it to be enough. One of my favorite quotes, it's been said that one of the Roosevelts said it, and then some say that Mark Twain wrote it somewhere. But regardless of who originally wrote this, it is so true. Comparison is the thief of joy. When we start to compare our joy, when we start to compare our life, when we start to compare our value or worth with someone else, it starts to zap any joy that we have. So be careful as you step out and bring your joy into the community of comparison. It will steal your joy quicker than you can bring it out. Let that go and let your joy be sufficient. It's a journey to joy, around joy, as joy and for joy. It is not a destination that you have to fight and get to. It is an experience that you can welcome in the moment. Ernest Holmes said that the present moment can never provide us with more joy than we are able to embody. So this puts all of the responsibility on us as practitioners of joy. The present moment can never provide us with more joy than we are able to embody. So if you find yourself challenged with being able to experience joy, there's lots of things that you can do. One of them is smile. Smiling has been shown to trigger neurological pathways and thus stimulate the nervous system, regardless of whether or not you're smiling at something because of something. If you just choose in a moment, I'm feeling kind of funky and I'm going to smile, there is an immediate visceral and biochemical response to that smile. And it does something to slightly move you up that spiral or up that spectrum. So to smile, to take a deep breath, oftentimes when we are in that fight or flight response, where we are angry at the world, where we're in that lower end of the emotional spectrum and we're feeling disconnected and detached, our breathing changes and it gets shallow. If you just pause and take a deep breath in, oh man, all of a sudden it gets you into the present moment again, where you can possibly step a little bit closer towards joy. So this week, let yourself be an instrument of joy. Do what you can to activate some level of positive contentment and sufficiency in the moment, because it is from that contentment that joy will arise. It is from that contentment that joy is imminent. And a closing thought today comes from our brother Ernest Holmes. Once again, one of my favorite quotes of inspiration for myself, or that I offer to others in spiritual direction and coaching, is that we are chemists in the laboratory of consciousness. What then shall you produce? Your consciousness is full of all sorts of things that you can mix together, that you can play together, whether you do it by yourself or with others. But it is this laboratory inside yourself. You have the responsibility and the capacity to produce something. So what shall it be? Shall it be joy? Shall it be optimism? Shall it be contentment? Shall it be love? Shall it be light? Yes to all of that. Once we get into a space of feeling content, then we can move ourselves with the power of prayer. And let's do that right now together. I invite you to bring one or both of your hands to your heart and take a nice, slow, deep breath in. And as you exhale, let your attention drop away from the screen and into your body, and find some contentment with this moment in this day, right here and right now. Feeling your feet on the floor, your bottom in your chair, feeling the warmth or relative coolness around you. Get present to this moment, because right here there is joy available. Right here, God is available. Why? Because there's only one thing happening. That is the love, the intelligence, the passion, the creativity, the freedom, and the joy of the whole Spirit. It is my life, and it is your life now. This doesn't change by conditions outside of us, but we get a little drawn away. So let our practice this week be of being the joy in the community, enjoying ourselves in the community, giving the gift of joy everywhere we go, because we choose to be joyful. We choose to be in the flow. We choose to be one with life as it is. Even if we have an opinion of not liking it, we can still access joy in the moment. How grateful I am for the reminder of that today and this week. Let it flow. Let it take us out of this service and into whatever awaits us. How grateful I am for the fulfillment of joy today and forevermore. And so it is. Amen. Peace and blessings to you all. Thank you so much for joining in today's talk.
Thank you, Reverend Darrell. A lot of food for thought this week.
Mm.
And now it's time for our offertory. We are so grateful and so blessed for everyone's support of CSL Denver, whether it's in time, treasure, or talent, and especially during this time that we have going on in our lives right now. So whether this is your first time joining us or you are a returning community participant, We want to thank you for your continuing financial support of the important work we are striving to provide. Right now, there are several ways you can make your financial contribution to Center for Spiritual Living Denver, and this information is running along the bottom of the screen. Either text to give, or mailing a check to our P.O. box, or going on to our website of www.csldenver.org and donating that way. So anyway, we know that you love us as we love you. So please repeat with me our usual affirmation. Excuse me. This perfect gift is spirit and form, circulating and blessing all that it touches. Freely I give, and joyously I receive. And so it is. And we have just a few announcements. So our usual virtual fellowship on Zoom is this morning. I have sent out an email. Excuse me, I'm all choked up here. We would love for you to come and join us and let us know how you're doing. If you did not receive the Zoom invitation earlier this morning, please send an email to info@csldenver.org and mention fellowship, and we'll send you a Zoom invitation right away. Reverend Darrell said he was going to be joining us for a few minutes, so we'll be happy to see him and talk with him and have joy in our community. And mark your calendars. Next Sunday is Tim Hancock's The Language of Gratitude workshop. It is right after service from 11 to 1 and Denver time, and it will be it's about gratitude and all of the spiritual and physical benefits of living in a state of gratitude. So please, again, send an email to info@csldenver.org to register and receive a Zoom invitation. Love offerings are always gratefully appreciated. So meanwhile, we hope you have a wonderful week and affirm right here and right now that 2022 is blessed and perfect in all that it is. We love you. We miss you. Please take care of yourselves. And let's close out with I Release and I Let Go with Michael Gott.
There was a time in my life, thought I had to do it all for myself. Didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you gotta let it go. Gotta let it go. You gotta let it all
yes, I'm